Alright, so I'm taking a break from Bond because I finished one section of the Bond, collection, so I'm taking a break. So I decided I'm gonna throw in some random movies, horror or otherwise, and I decided to start with this Shudder original entitled Scare Me. And this is one of those films where you read the back of the box, you think you're getting one thing, but you get another. Let me read it for you, okay? It says, two strangers, Fred and Fanny, are stuck in their Catskills cabin. Let me restart that again, shall I? Just let me restart it again. Two strangers, Fred and Fanny, are stuck in their Catskills cabin during a power outage. Looking to pass the time, they decide to tell each other scary stories. But the more Fred and Fanny commit to their tales, the more the stories come to life. As the horrors of reality manifest, Fred confronts his ultimate fear that Fanny may be the better storyteller, forcing him to craft the most horrific tale imaginable, put an end to the competition for good. Now, you read that. You heard that, or read it, and thought, wow. So this is like an anthology movie that the more they tell the stories, stuff around them becomes real. And they start to realize this, so Fred tells this most terrifying story ever that comes real and kills Fanny, and then he uses this story to make money? That would be giving this movie too much credit. No, this is a on-a-budget horror film. Written and directed by Josh Rubin, who plays the main character Fred. So that tells you how much was put into this. It's something he wrote and directed, and he put himself as the star, which happens a lot. It's a bottle horror movie as it is, but I came in expecting an anthology film. But it's more just two people spitballing ideas back and forth, telling stories, coming up with, twists and turns and character motivations and stuff like that. Which I was with to a certain point. At first, I was like, I don't know how I feel about this. I'm like, they start telling the story, I'm like, okay. But nothing, I'm like, okay, so when are we going to go into the story? When are we going to see what's going on? No, it's just them telling the story. I'm like, why aren't we seeing this happen? Why is it just telling us? And some things, voices start to change, little things. And okay, first story ends. I'm like, okay, that sounds good. And then we get to the next story, Grandpa. And this is when you realize it's not an anthology in that sense. Yes, there's different stories, but they're not going to move from this one setting for the entire film. They're in the cabin, moving around this cabin, telling the stories, and that's it. That's a bit of a deception, especially when you read the back of the box is completely different from what this movie actually is. The box, the description on the back of the box leads you to believe that there's some serious supernatural horror aspect going on as they tell their stories. Like the cabin is cursed, they're telling these stories, and the more they tell their stories, the cabin is making them come to life until he finally tells the scariest story that ends up in death. Killing them, killing her, whatever. That's not what it is at all. This is a horror comedy. However, as they keep going with telling their stories, I was really into it. Until a certain point. And that's when the pizza guy showed up. Carlo, his name is. You know the old saying, 3 is a crowd? Well, yes. From the moment he gets there, it goes completely into the comedy aspect of the film. Yes, there was little comedy stuff here and there popped in during the first half. But when it gets to this, all of a sudden they're wackier, they're doing cocaine, they're acting nutty, and it's just like, no, this is too much. You had something, if you kept this tone from the beginning of the film consistent with this, it would have led something. And then after he leaves, it kind of goes back to the way it was. And you have this little 20-minute section that just goes wacky, horror comedy, more comedy oriented, and then it just goes back. And then it really kind of the ending kind of ruins this. Because they established, like, before the pizza man shows up, it looks as if these two are going to hook up. Because they're telling the story about the, about the people about the kiss or something. The troll. The lady and the troll, and she kisses the troll, she does for 200 more years. And it looks like they're about to kiss, and then the pizza man shows up and ruins that. And then that goes away because we find out that Fanny has been writing, because they're both writers. Fanny more successful as she published a book called Venus. And then it's when they start acting that out that's when the pizza man is there and it gets wacky and it gets weird. It just sort of, the story's not bad. It doesn't work with all three of them there. The two before were just fine. It turns out she's been writing all this stuff, all of Fred's ideas, and writing a story about Fred in this little notebook. And she plans on using this to write her next novel. So Fred gets pissed, and all of a sudden this becomes like, okay, so beginning of this film, we got him pretending to be Jack Nicholson going around his cabin, Now he sort of becomes Jack Nicholson. He chases around with a fire poker. He says like, "Oh, I'm just kidding. Run, run, run!" And then you don't see this either. You can tell this is where the budget ran out because he runs after her, and then we just see the stairs, and we hear noises, and then it cuts to he's been stabbed by the fire poker apparently, and he's dying, and he asks her to finish him off, but she can't, and he runs off, and then he bleeds to death. And then the lady who drove him there shows up, I guess, to pick him up, finds the notebook, and publishes those stories as her own. That's how it ends. Fanny runs off. Fanny runs off. Fred is dead, and this person gets rich off ideas they both came up with. What I need to do, I need to stop seeing Shudder and thinking this could be good. Although it says official selection 2020 Sundance Film Festival, imaginative and witty, razor sharp horror comedy. Yes, until that part with the pizza man. That's when it really starts to get weird. And then from then it just doesn't pick back up. And this movie is almost 2 hours long. Let's see exactly. Doesn't say exactly how. I think it was like an hour and 40 minutes or so. Hour and 45 minutes. That's long. I'm like, oh, okay. And I told myself I'm going to watch shorter movies now. I'm not watching James Bond films. This is probably the length of a James Bond movie, to be honest. It was long. You could have cut out that 20 minutes. Maybe changed the ending up. And it could have been a little bit better. It's like they were spitballing ideas. He was spitball ideas and just put it on the screen. And I'm not, nothing against Josh Rubin at all. The first half of this film is pretty good. I was really into it. But then the second half kind of nosedives. When the pizza man shows up, it's like they have chemistry. These two characters, they have chemistry with each other. But then you add this third guy in who's just this wacky character, and it doesn't work. And then by the time, then you get, okay, we can go back to doing this. But then we have to follow up with this notebook that we saw her writing in. So he has to find it, and he has to get mad. And it becomes more of a serious type horror movie until he's killed, and then it's a little bit goofy again. It just doesn't work. But I did enjoy the first half. I gotta keep saying that. So I'll give it a 6. Because I think it's decent, but there are some problems with it, and I feel it could have been better. But it's a 6. So what are your thoughts on Scare Me? Let me know in the comments below. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. I've been Scotty, and I'll see you in the next one.